Howdy y'all, and welcome back to SC Traditions. Now whether you are in the outdoors just to spend some time out there or you're trying to squirrel hunt, getting to talk with nature is one of the coolest things. And squirrels are yet another one of those animals that you kind of bounce back and forth and communicate with if you're utilizing the right type of tools. And for this, all you're going to need is 2 quarters. It's nice and simple like that. So squirrels communicate through a couple different forms. Number one, they kind of hiss and squeal at each other. Quarters aren't going to mimic that. What we're trying to mimic here is tapping on a tree or barking back and forth at each other. That's what these quarters are going to be able to capitalize, and we're going to do so by tapping on the quarter like I just did. But it takes a little bit more than taking 2 quarters and hitting them against each other. That sounds metallic, not like a squirrel. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our quarter here, and we're going to form a circle with our hands, kind of a cup like that. And we're going to rest this quarter down in there. Now all I'm going to do is take this cupped quarter do you see how that kind of sounds like a knocking sound? Like a squirrel has an acorn, a squirrel has a hickory nut, and he's taking it and he's beating it up against the tree. What that's going to do is that's going to get other squirrels chattering back and forth and maybe even popping their head on the other side of the tree, anything like that, because they're looking around and they're saying, wait a minute, who's got a nut? Once again, real quick, take it, cup that finger around that, and knock. Now, you've noticed that I've got my hand cupped, and anybody who's done a duck call knows what I'm about to do here. You can kind of flex these fingers inside and out and change the tone of what you're trying to do. So you can shut it or open it. Notice the sound difference? So sometimes those little variations are all it takes to put that squirrel over the edge and really bring them out. People who squall other animals like turkeys, ducks, anything like that, y'all know what variation does. You got to match the animal. An animal doesn't sound exactly the same the whole time. So adding these little variations by flexing your hand inside and out makes big differences and pays big dividends in the end. So one final time, we're going to throw our quarter down in there. Boom. Pretty simple. There's call number 1 on a quarter. So call number 2 utilizes a completely different format than call number 1. So quarters, if you know them, have these little ridges right there on the end. And those, honestly, I'm a history major, so I'm going to share with you real quick. Back in the day, people used to coin clip. They'd clip the tiny little edges off of coins. They'd save them up over a couple years. They'd have enough to make a can full of bucks off a gold, nickel, whatever they're clipping. So we put these little edges on them, and it keeps us from clipping them. But you know what the edges are good for? Squirrel calling. So by taking these edges and rubbing them against each other like so, we can kind of mimic a way a squirrel chatters at each other, and kind of with the way that I think of chattering is like kind of chattering your teeth, you know. Yeah, we're trying to mimic that, but it's going to sound a lot more like a squirrel than whatever the heck I just did. So we take this and we go. Pretty plain and simple. One more time, taking the 2 edges of these quarters at a 90-degree angle to each other. Pretty simple. Look at that. We got a squirrel talking to us right now. That's enough proof if you ask me that it works. But what I would do is you're going to use these 2 calls interchangeably. So if you're out there squirrel hunting, let's say you pinned up against a tree, you can kind of see a squirrel, but he's on the other side of the tree, so you want to get his attention. You can take this and you can go. Okay. Now the squirrel started chattering back at you, so you're going to chatter back at him a little bit. And all of a sudden, boom, he walks around that tree, you come up, you pull the trigger, bingo, you got squirrel and dumplings. All because you utilized 2 quarters. That squirrel cost you 50 cents. And the best thing about it is it's like Aldi, you got your quarters back. So the way that I'd really encourage you in getting to know how these squirrels work is take the knowledge from this video, take the know-how of using the 2 quarters, go out and listen to squirrels actually talking back and forth to each other in the wild. You know, you don't even have to bring a gun with you. You can just go pin up against a tree and listen to them, hear how they're doing, hear how the tapping the nut works with the chattering and all of that. And then you can combine those and you can really utilize it and make it work. That's with anything. If you're going turkey hunting, you're going squirrel hunting, you're going duck hunting, Go out there before you ever chase these sorts of animals, listen to how they talk to each other, and you're trying to match that cadence. Once again, the biggest thing when it comes to calling isn't so much if you sound like the animal, a lot of it's can you match their rhythms. It was a pretty short, simple, sweet, and to the point video, but I want y'all to go out there, like, share, and subscribe before you do any of that. But call me in some squirrels and maybe submit a picture to me on Instagram at SC Traditions with the squirrel that you killed using some quarters.